Dun 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 dun. Remember when you was a kid? Well, for those of us that were kids back then, playing that Super Mario Brothers on Nintendo Entertainment System, and as soon as you heard that dun 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 dun, that was the joint, right? That game, hey, that was a tough game. Super Mario Brothers was like 9 levels. I forgot how many levels. You save the princess and you going into the tunnels and clunk 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 jumping on top of things. That was a crazy. That game was dope. I loved it. I skipped school for the first time just to play that game all afternoon, and I didn't get caught. So I skipped school again. But anyway, I just took my kids to see Super Mario Brothers. They loved it. I fell asleep in part of it. I'm it's not for me, but it was cool. I've been taking my kids to the movies since they were babies. So normally when they want to see a movie, I go see a movie. Super Mario Brothers, it was a pretty good movie. All right. Boy, oh boy. You know what? I need to I wish I could read. I wish I came up with the phrase, you can't make this stuff up, right? I wish I came up with that. Because I don't like to take what everybody else says. I really would make a segment called You Can't Make This Stuff Up. But I can't do it because people use it too much. I might make a segment called The Birds and the Trees instead of Birds and the Bees. But it's crazy. So, as we get started, let me give you 2 verses that govern how I see things, why I do what I do, why I say what I say. You can agree to disagree. That's totally fine. You can start your own channel and say whatever you want. All right. You know how to interpret the appearance of the sky, but you cannot interpret the sign of the times, right? This is Jesus saying that. I'm just trying to interpret the signs of the times, man. What is actually happening right now? What's going on? The other verse that I use, which you'll see why I think the way I think today, is Ephesians 5:11. Take no part in the unfruitful works of darkness, but instead expose them. That verse right there is defined my mantra, stay balanced. It's why I have no love for the political left and the political right. And I'm not even disappointed anymore in Christians. I get it, but it's sad to see so many believers thinking that the only darkness is on the opposing side when there's just darkness on both sides. It is ridiculous to me. My job is to expose the deeds of darkness on all sides, right? And that's anything. That's why I'll critique my culture, black community. I'll critique conservative Republicans. I stay balanced because there's darkness on all sides. All right? Ladies and gentlemen, this is day 10 of 100 days in a row. I'm 1/10 of the way there, and we got a ways to go. So welcome to CNN. I'm Kirk Kennedy. I'll be your host. Let's get it in. All right. You can't make this stuff up. Birds and the trees, right? This is just ridiculous. All right, so many of you, as I just said, you just know my perspective on politics. It's not that I think, listen, I'm in favor. You got to vote your conscience. Everyone, whether they believe in Jesus or not, is going to stand in front of them. And what you did is you're going to give an account, right? He's going to ask, and we have no idea what that's like. But if any of the descriptions in the Bible, like Ezekiel 1, Isaiah 6, Revelation 1, 4, and 5, and some of these other, Daniel, if they're true descriptions of what God is like, then standing in front of God to give an account is not going to be a pleasant thing unless you are a believer. And even then, I'm sure there'll be some trembling, right? Some trepidation. Everyone's going to give an account. So my whole thing is, man, vote your conscience, but don't lose your conscience for your vote, right? So I do not think all politics are equal, none of that. However, I do think that there's darkness on both sides. So I am a proponent of going after both sides, but I usually go after the conservative side more than the Democrats, the left. And let me tell you why. Even though I think the left is deplorable in many ways in their policies and their attitude, the reason why is 2 reasons why you'll hear me probably target the conservative side more than the liberal side for these 2 reasons. One, I'm conservative myself. Like I don't vote anymore simply because it is so sinfully distractive, right? It's just a distraction nowadays. Like I mean, we're at a point now where your eternal destination for some people is determined by who you voted for in the primaries. It's ridiculous to me. It's ridiculous to me. So I just see, as a pastor, I need to care for people who are going to have differences of opinion in how they think America should be governed and what things that they care about. And in our system, we have red and blue, but it's much more complicated than that. It's much more complicated than that. For many people, it is. And so I'm conservative by nature, and I would have voted. I'd vote conservative, even if I know that some people would be shocked. Oh my gosh, I would vote conservative if I were voting, but I don't. Second reason why I go after conservatives probably more than the liberals or the left is because the conservatives tie a lot of what they say to the Bible. They tie a lot of their policies and the way that they act and who they tell you to vote for. They tie a lot of that to Christianity. So they almost present themselves as the Christian political option. The left doesn't do that. The left they have no qualm. I'm not saying there aren't Christians who are Democrats, but the left does not claim to line up with the Bible, right? They claim to line up with the cultural understanding of love, not the biblical one. The conservatives act as if what they say, what they do, their policies are biblical. And so I tend, like following the steps of Jesus, I tend to go after the hypocrisy that I see in that, because I've seen a lot of believers, good people, even former members of my church, get caught up in culture war theology and essentially give up the actual character that God requires, like loving your neighbor, for the sake of hating people or calling them out for policies. So I typically go after conservatives. So if that bothers you, watch another channel. Everyone has a stick, and I'm just telling you this is mine. Although the left, they do see me, and they will see me actually tomorrow. They're just wilding. Having said that, let's go in. All right. Candace Owens, the queen of there's no racism. Anytime, whether you agree with her or not, I don't care. This is my joint. Every time something happens between black people, at least, she will be the first one. Before, you know what's interesting? She's one of the people that would say, well, wait for the facts. Where are the facts? Like in a case where, like, say a police officer kills a black dude. Wait for the facts, wait for the facts. But before all the facts come out, she'll tell you everything about the dude, the black person who got killed, in the negative sense and all of that stuff, right? And this is why conservatives love her, because she will say things that white conservatives do not have the courage to say, right? So we'll get her to say that, right? So this is the queen of there's no racism. But she's always trying to, if there's no racism, then there shouldn't be in any way, shape, or form a reason to spin things as racism. If you're saying that black people are always spinning it that way, then you shouldn't do that, right? Boy, oh boy, again, you cannot make this stuff up. All right. So let me put you into what happened. Recently, Candace Owens, she's married to a white Englishman named David Farmer, all right? Candace Owens has recently claimed racism or some form of it against her husband, against her white husband. All right, so let me just give you the background. So here I'm going to put this on the screen so you can see this, because here's sort of the narrative of what happened. All right, so it doesn't always go well. Here's what this writer is saying. Earlier this year, Owens' husband reached out to the interior designer David Netto after the couple saw his work in one of their friends' homes in Nashville. Farmer filled out the contact form on Netto's website. And this is Candace Owens saying, my husband wrote the most polite email because he's always polite. He's very English, Owens told me. We didn't know if we could afford a designer or anything. David Netto, when he got the email, here's how he responded. He said, Dear George, thank you for your inquiry. I'd rather get beat in the ass with a wooden plank than ever go near either of you. Now, for those of you like, Pastor Kurt, you said ass. Well, donkey is ass, and that's in the Bible too. The Bible, depending on what translation you use, it might say Balaam's ass or Balaam's donkey. So stop getting offended, all right? It says, I'd rather get beat in the donkey with a wooden plank than go near either of you. Kind regards, David. All right. So this guy said, I don't want to work with you all. He made it clear. He knew, I don't know how he knew that David Farmer was he may have, Candace Owens' husband may have indicated that that's his wife, probably trying to get clout. I don't know. But he said, I'd rather be beat in the donkey than to work with either of you. Here's what Candace Owens tweeted shortly after that. Here's her tweet. If a white conservative male had written that email to an outspoken black liberal, he would have lost everything. They would have said it was like Jim Crow. Okay. So a guy, now keep in mind, David Neto, the guy who's the interior designer that her husband wrote to, he's a white dude. Long hair with a beard, goatee, trimmed up nice, big Marlboro man looking dude, right? Big, one of them type dudes, right? He's a white dude. So her response is, if a white conservative male had written that email to an outspoken black liberal, he would have lost everything. They would have said it was like Jim Crow. So here's a question I have for Cousin Candace. Why does everything have to go there? And I get it. She's a grifter. This is your stick. You got to put everything in. But there's no such thing as racism, right? But you always bring it back to racism, even when there's no racism. This is a white on white crime, right? David Neto's white. Your husband's white. He doesn't want to work with you. And it has nothing to do with the fact that you're black or anything like that. Keep in mind that Candace Owens the NAACP came to her defense in 2008 to sue a school in Stamford, Connecticut for racism, and her family got $37,500. And the NAACP representative was shocked to find out that she was a conservative and basically basting black people for saying there's racism. Go figure, right? I have nothing against her personally, but this is what I'm talking about. These people it's all for gain and platforms and stuff like that. If there's no racism, what you need the NAACP for? If there's no race, why you bring this up about your husband? So here's the David Neto, here's how he responded to that. This is what he said. It's a terrorism, amorality thing. This is his perspective. Before explaining. After January 6th, the joke's over. People like this should expect to be recognized as complicit with something very dangerous, and I don't mean Kanye, and expect to be told off in polite society. Neto said, adding, without Parler, the Proud Boys couldn't talk to each other, so that's enough for me. All right? Now, you don't have to agree with this. I don't care this isn't about if he's right, wrong, whatever. This is just his perspective, right? So Candace Owens went the race route. Oh, this would be if a black and let me. There's a strategy that's happening there, and a lot of you get fooled by it. I'm gonna talk about what it is, and everyone does this, not just the right. The left does it. Everyone does this strategy. I'm gonna tell you what it is in 1 second. But this guy is saying, look, I don't want to work with you because you ride with what happened on January 6th. I believe that was terrorism, domestic terrorism. And I think you are complicit in perpetuating a narrative that I think is wrong. The same thing that other people do when she says they perpetuate narratives of racism that she thinks are wrong. She's built a platform doing that. So this guy essentially is only doing what Candace Owens has done, and yet she's offended and she's going to the race card. Oh, if he would have been this and that, then it would have been all this. Let me tell you the problem with that. Now, you've heard the term whataboutism, right? Whataboutism. Here's the problem with that. This isn't, whataboutism is when you say, oh, he's a terrible president. Yeah, but what about Joe Biden? Joe Biden is a terrible president. Oh, yeah, but what about Trump? Right? So there's a lot of that, right? There's a different kind of thing going on here. And it's not a whataboutism, because a whataboutism is comparing someone's current character to another. Whataboutism is more like a tit for tat thing. It's when I grew up, we used to call it, I know you are, but what am I, right? I'm rubber, you're glue. Whatever you say bounces off of me and sticks to you, right? That's not what this is. There's something more dangerous happening when you start doing stuff like this. Let me repeat what her reply was. Her reply to him saying, I would rather be beat than work with you guys was, if a white conservative had written that email to an outspoken black liberal, he would have lost everything. They would have said it was like Jim Crow, all right? There's something that's called, and no one's calling it this, so I'm coining it right now. This is called Doctor Strange syndrome. And let me tell you why this is very dangerous. Remember in Infinity Wars, for those of you who are Marvel fans, if you're not a Marvel fan, you can stop watching the show now, unsubscribe and not like. And I don't mean Disney. I'm talking about Marvel. I don't care about Disney. I'm talking about Marvel. I bang, you got to be a superhero fan to watch these episodes. So in Infinity War, there was a point where Doctor Strange was sitting and they looked over and said, hey, what is he doing? And he was like in a zone, in a trance. And he was like this. And there's all these special effects on his body, right? And then he says, I looked at 14 million possibilities. And then Tony Stark was like, how many do we win? And he said 1, right? That was a critical moment in the movie. But what Doctor Strange was doing, now it's a movie, so I'm not trying to over-spiritualize the movie, but essentially he was doing something that we know only God can do. Only God knows what would happen in every possibility of every situation. We've seen that in the scriptures, like when David was like, he gets the ephod and says, Lord, if we go down to this place where they give us to the Philistines, and the Lord's like, yeah, they will, right? So he knows every possibility, everything. He's Doctor Strange, that's a movie. He can't do that. No one can do that in real life, right? But when you say stuff like, oh, if a black dude would have said that, then and it happens all the time. Black people have justified dumb stuff by saying stuff like this. They'll see somebody get this white and treated. Oh, if he were black, though, they would have slammed him on the ground and all of that, right? It happens all the time. This is Doctor Strange syndrome, where you know all of the possibilities of what would have happened, and you talk about them with such certainty, and you even present them as if they're true, and they justify a position where you could be 100% wrong. It's Doctor Strange syndrome, and it's very dangerous. I've seen a lot of people use this strategy, don't even know it, and it's just arrogance. Let me tell you why it's arrogance, right? In James, this is what James says, right? Think about this for a second. So if I'm saying, oh, if he would have done this and would have done that, then this would have happened. Oh, if he'd have been black, then they would have definitely shot him in the face or whatever. Oh, if my husband, if it was a black liberal, they would have called this Jim Crow and it would have been worse. Here's what James says about this, right? James says it's called boasting about tomorrow. This is what James says. Come now, you who say, today or tomorrow we will go into such and such a town and spend a year there and trade and make a profit. Yet you do not know what tomorrow will bring. What is your life? For you are a mist that appears for a little time and then vanishes. Instead, you ought to say, if the Lord wills, we will live and do this or that. As it is, you boast in your arrogance. All such boasting is evil. So whoever knows the right thing to do and fails to do it, for him it is sin. It is sinful to say, oh, if this would have happened, you know that would have happened. You have no idea. We don't even know what's going to happen tomorrow. So James is saying, don't even boast about tomorrow, but I watched tons of people on all sides make these arguments. They're not whataboutism. They're things that would happen if this person were this race or this color and that, and you don't know. Now, I can tell you, as a big black dude with hair that may threatens police, there's a lot of times where I've gotten pulled over. I have not had the interactions with police that go viral. I've not had those, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful. Because when I get pulled over, I'm aware that they might think, oh, this dude, fear for my safety, and next thing you know, I'm in heaven with the Lord cooling, but that, dang, my kids got to go without their dad, right? I haven't had those experiences. And so that doesn't always happen. When you get pulled over, and I've had some cops that talk a little aggressive, but I'm not going to talk aggressive back. And it's not because I'm not scared, it's just I'm smart. It's wisdom. I'm not getting shot just to prove you ain't going to talk to me like that. I could care less. I'm trying to go home and see my kids. You can say whatever you want, say how you want. As long as you don't shoot me, I'm good. But it doesn't happen to me. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't happen. Of course I know that. But it doesn't happen to me, all right? So this idea that, oh, if you were black, if you look like this would have happened. No, and Candace Owens and many people do this all the time. Brothers and sisters, don't fall for this. This is the type of stuff, and it's just sad to me that there is no such thing as racism when black people say it, but when it affects her white husband, it's racism. This is the stuff that's just dumb, and this is why when it comes to politics, I can't stand it. All right, one more. I got one more for you. One more time. Let's go to Defund the Police. All right. Defund the Police largely came out of the left from Black Lives Matter as a response to multiple viral videos of police, sometimes justifiably, sometimes not justifiably, shooting black people, right? So this idea of defund the police, which meant to them, we need to reorganize, right? But that's to Marxism. We need to transfer some of that money of these police budgets to other kind of social services that can help with some of these mental health cases rather than these people just getting killed. That was kind of the idea. Now, there were definitely some people that thought abolish the police, but that's not what most people meant by defund the police. I personally don't agree with that. I think, especially abolish the police, I think that's the stupidest thing in the world. And if you're a believer, I know some Christians who are Democrats or who agree with Black Lives Matter, like abolish the police. Fam, that's stupid. And you're actually in sin, because Romans 13 says that these governing authorities God has instituted to be here. I don't want the police to go nowhere. I just want the police to act like they're supposed to act and protect and serve, right? So defund the police became all the rage for years, and there were laws and stuff that were created. And in 2020, on June 8th, then President Donald Trump, he made it clear that defunding the police is not going to happen. And I agreed with him. I mean, now I think there could be some things reallocated. I think the police budgets are often 40 to 62% of a lot of cities' budgets. That's a lot of money. And some of them, they got to be having tanks and stuff. Like, what is this, Beijing? Like, you driving tanks over people in your hood? So anyway, I didn't agree with defund the police, especially not the way some people were talking about it. Here's what Trump said about it in 2020.
Long year for less crime. Let's put it that way, less crime. And there's a reason for less crime. That's because we have great law enforcement. I'm very proud of them. There won't be defunding. There won't be dismantling of our police. And there's not going to be any disbanding of our police. Our police have been letting us live in peace, and we want to make sure we don't have any bad actors in there. And sometimes you'll see some horrible things like we witnessed recently, but 99, I say 99.9, but let's go with 99% of them are great, great people, and they've done jobs that...
Okay, so 99% of police are great, great people. There is no defunding the police, according to Donald Trump on June 8th, 2020. April 5th, 2023, headline: Trump calls to defund the police after his own arrest. Former President Donald Trump demanded his Republican allies in Congress defund the FBI and the Justice Department. A day after being charged with 34 felony counts of falsifying business records, Trump took to social media and proclaimed almost every legal and political analyst has said that the unfair and morally disgusting indictment filed against me yesterday has no merit, and there's not even a case. There was no crime, such and such, right? And then here's what he wrote on his Truth Social page. Republicans in Congress should defund the DOJ and FBI until they come to their sentence. The Democrats have totally weaponized law enforcement in our country and are viciously using the abuse of power to interfere with our already under siege elections. Okay. This is what I'm talking about. So when defund the police was coming from sort of black people, Black Lives Matter, the left, and it was because people are literally getting killed that don't have to be killed. It doesn't mean that every time someone is shot by police, there were people that were outraged over situations that I was like, man, if I was police, I'd have shot that dude too. You know what I'm saying? I'd have shot them too. Like, there's no way. Police sometimes do get a bad rap. But don't pretend like there's a few bad apples though, right? And so it's a lot more than that. And so here he's saying now, using the language defund the police. In 2020, we're not defunding the police. So when it happens to him, we need to defund these law enforcement organizations. When it happens to others, they're good people, 99.9% of them, right? This is what I mean. Like, I don't care who you vote for, none of it. Vote your conscience, but don't lose your conscience for your vote. You got to expose the deeds of darkness, right? This is Ephesians 5. Expose the deeds of darkness. That's our responsibility. There's darkness on both sides here. So you could be mad on me. But this is hypocrisy. It's hypocrisy. No, they're not. Black people have felt like the police have been weaponized against them and still feel that way. But it's like, no, that's a Marxist. So why isn't this a Marxist thing? And I already did a video a couple days ago. Donald Trump is no victim. I mean, this dude has a history. Even if you get away with this, I think these charges, some of them are stupid, to be honest. I don't think they're going to stick. But you're going to stand up for the Lord, President Trump. And in that courtroom, all the facts are legitimate. So I'm saying all this to say, and believe me, the left is coming. I got something for the left. But I'm saying all this to say, be careful, brothers and sisters. Don't fall victim to, don't believe Candace Owens when she says, oh, they're just talking about racism. But when it affected her white husband, if she always plays that role, it's just stop. I get it. This is how you make money. This is how you get it. I get it. We get it. But don't believe it. Don't fall for it. I don't even care if you support her and agree with someone. There's some things that Candace Owens says are spot on. There's some stuff she says. I like her comments. Yep. I'm with you. But I'm not a fool though. I can agree with this statement, but not agree with every time you make this kind of statement, right? We have to be the same. We have to be discerning, expose the deeds of darkness, right? Read the signs of the times. Everyone is angling. Everyone's angling. Donald Trump, we're not going to defund the police. We're not going to defund the police. Defund the police, right? Because they're coming after me. It's just so self-serving. And I'm watching believers just fall into this. Oh yeah, but if it were Joe Biden, and then what about Hunter Biden? I'm sorry, he's not running for president, fam. One of Donald Trump's sons is wilding, but nobody's talking about that in the media. They don't care. You're going after Hunter Biden. Who cares about that dude, man? That dude's not the president, right? So, this stuff to me it's why I stay balanced. I look at it and I watch believers, God-fearing people who I think genuinely love the Lord get so sucked in. And it's like, fam, it's not that serious, bro. It's not going to be all Democrats and all Republicans in heaven. This is going to be everybody who believed in Jesus will be there. And if you vote Democrat, your sins are forgiven. If you vote Republican, your sins won't be forgiven, man. But what do I know? What do I know? I don't care about, I care about all of these things, but I don't care about any of these things to the point where I'm willing to lose the moral compass that Jesus said we should have just to prove a political point. But what do I know? I need to get this tooth fixed. I was supposed to go today and I had to cancel, and then they're telling me my dentist office is going to close. So if anybody knows of a good dentist, let me know, because I'm tired of handling the tooth. All right? Appreciate y'all. Keeping it going. Tomorrow, day 11 of 100. I'm Kirk Kennedy, signing off. Grace and peace, y'all.